The signing of 5 agreements culminated a day full of official activities for the Prime Minister and her delegation.
I do believe that our partnership together, India and Trinidad and Tobago, will redound to the benefit of the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago and the wider CARICOM region.
From the sacred salute in sheltered accommodation to a stately inspection of a guard of honor and reciprocal introductions of ministers, resulting in good humor from the Indian media when the host Prime Minister greeted 2 Trinbagonian cricket legends. It obviously amused the dignitaries and added stimulus to the expression of thanks by the visiting Prime Minister, who said she is humbled by the great honor India has placed on the people of Trinidad and Tobago, inspiring not just a tingle, but a tremendous joy in her heart.
It is personally very humbling to me and exceedingly joyful. So no tingling, actually joy.
It is not the first time that these flags are fluttering together at Rashtrapati Bhavan, but today of special significance they welcome the diaspora's first female Prime Minister. As if by divine fiat, it is an encounter that first began on May 30th, 1845, when the initial batch of pioneering indentured immigrants arrived in Port of Spain to work on British-owned sugarcane plantations, escaping one impoverished colonial economy to rescue another. For 71 years, the 300-plus voyages would bring to Trinidad almost 148,000 job seekers and others, enduring on each journey 3 horrifying months across the Kalapani, battered but not discouraged, physically weak but strong in spirit to fulfill the dual mission upon which they had embarked, leaving behind families and kinships they'd never again see. 44 years after the Fat al-Razak made its maiden voyage to Port of Spain, Ram Lakhan Mishra of Boxar village in Belopur, Bihar, would begin his date with destiny on October 21st, 1889, by boarding the Volga in Garden Reach, Calcutta, heading to greener pastures in the West Indies, and establishing a new way of life in Trinidad.
What we do first of all in trying to locate a family, whether it's in Trinidad or India, we listen to the family story. I was lucky to talk to the Prime Minister's grandmother, Sumitra, who told me among the different ancestors of the Prime Minister, her Aja's father, that's her paternal great-grandfather, his name was Ram Lakhan, he was a Pandit, and that he had come from India around the end of the 19th century. She couldn't, of course, give the exact date. So my purpose was to try to find a document of arrival at the National Archives which would verify Sumitra's story.
133 years later, the little tribal village from whence he came would come alive with an historic ancestral walk by his great-granddaughter over the soils on which the family once toiled. A special Air India flight will jet her to the Bihari capital, Patna. She would then board an Indian Air Force chopper to the remote village where family members she is meeting for the first time await her arrival.
Kamla Persad Jindabad.
जिंदाबाद जिंदाबाद
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 Helipur ki beti Jindabad.
जिंदाबाद
Welcome Kamla Persad, they joyously recited as an emotional Prime Minister is escorted through a narrow green carpeted walkway to her uncle's home, anxious to meet whom karma had prescribed, linking time and history, evoking emotions, and visibly demonstrating humanness. These are priceless moments, understood best by those who encounter the deep feelings of social adventure and appreciate extended family, unaware of what to expect, yet venturing steadfastly into the past. Overwhelmed by this special homecoming, they showered her with a cascade of emotions and flowers. Tokens of their appreciation and gifts, the exchanges seemed never-ending. Pictures telling their many stories of a flash in history that this village shall forever remember and cherish. On the outside, tens of thousands guarded from villages far and wide, the old and the very young securing strategic positions to capture that close-up view of a distant Jahajin, who in their minds epitomizes greatness and global prominence, a daughter who'd come from the genes of their own Girmitia. Absorbed by the power of this reunion, she shared with this mammoth crowd deep sentiments of her heart.
When I was walking in and I saw all of you and tears came to my eyes, I could only remember the face of my grandfather, the face of my father, the face of my parents, and believe how proud they would have been if they were alive today to see me here in their land, in their village. Whatever I am today has been put into my genetic makeup and into my DNA from here in Bihar.
Grateful for their tremendous embrace and welcome, she offered to her newfound kinship educational counseling so that they too could make a difference in their own lives.
If I were to leave a message here today for you, it is that you must do every single thing you can to give your children an education. Without an education, they will never be able to get a better quality of life.
Apno se sukhad milan. This journey in faith, driven by an inquisition to trace the origins of her being, would bring together the generations Ram Lakhan Mishra left behind, willingly preparing the way for the special return. No better sight for this visiting head of government than the ominous presence of her country's national flag in a land geographically distant, yet so close to her heart. The goodbyes were as emotional as the tears of joy that welcomed her, bridging a gap that existed for over a century, narrowed by the quest to educate herself about the roots from Buxar district that were transplanted in the soils of Siparia 123 years ago. Ironically, a tree in the village named Siparia stands even today near the ancestral home. The pilgrimage to the Prime Minister's ancestral home would culminate at the Kolkata Monument, the very spot from where her grandfather Ramlakhan Mishra boarded the Volga to Trinidad. A commemorative plaque gives public recognition to him and all others who made the crossings between 1834 to 1920 in search of new possibilities and creating economic and political opportunities for their succeeding generations.
Our country brings people from various streams, different parts of the globe, that all of us in some way to try to find from whence we came, if we can't actually go to find out about it, because it's important to know that we are not alone. We didn't just land in Trinidad and Tobago, but we have these great civilizations which have propelled us forward. So whether we be from India, Africa, China, Europe, they were great civilizations, each one that we came from, and maybe that's why Trinidad is such a great place, because it's made up of persons who have come from the greatest civilizations in the world.
This is absolutely unbelievable. They came here in their thousands to witness a great-granddaughter of their soil whose grandfather left these lands in 1889. She found her roots overcome by emotions as she went through the village, as she visited the ancestral home from which her great-grandfather left Bihar and boarded one of those ships on his way to a new life in Trinidad and Tobago, that today she could return to this village a Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. From the village to the Kolkata Monument, on which is inscribed a tribute to all those who braved the Kala Pani, not only in search of a better life, but creating one for succeeding generations to produce Prime Ministers like Kamla Persad Bissessar.